With just over a month to go until the January transfer window, reports suggest that Spurs are indeed planning to upgrade the squad as they continue to give Big Ange the tools that he needs to have a real go at the top four and trophies in the new year. Meanwhile, there's an update on QT Romero and Richarlison's injuries, and Ben Davies gets a new job. All this and more on today's Spurred On podcast. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like. Press subscribe in the bottom right hand corner if you're not already a subscriber for daily Tottenham Hotspur and transfer content. And do give this a listen on the audio platforms over at Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Just type in the Spurred On podcast and give us a follow or a subscribe there. But let's get started. And Tottenham Hotspur are apparently more than likely to activate their £21 million release clause option on Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis. Spurs continue to assess the player ahead of June 2025, which is the upper deadline on when they can make that purchase. But at this stage, apparently the feeling is that the deal will be too good to pass up and may even get brought forward to January if possible. For those of you who don't know much about Cardoso, he's a central midfielder or defensive central midfielder. He's 23 years old. He's played 144 times for Internacional in the Brazilian league and 32 times for Real Betis since he joined them last season. 8 appearances in La Liga this season. He's Brazilian/American. He actually plays for the American national side. What I really like about this player and why I think Johan Lange was willing to put him in as part of that Giovanni Lo Celso transfer in the summer is that he's incredibly comfortable on the ball in that 6 role. He loves taking it on the half turn from his centre-backs and from his wide players. And he's happy drawing the opposition out, which of course is something that Ange Postecoglou talks about a lot. He wants his players to be comfortable enough on the ball where he'll draw out the press, or they'll all draw out the press. And Cardoso is absolutely elite at that. He loves it. He reads the game and intercepts the ball really well. He's got good vision, not afraid to play a first-time pass, which is also something Ange will appreciate. And also good through ball player with either his left or right foot. Brave in his own box, doesn't just try and whack it away when he's under pressure in his own box. And also what I like about Cardoso is he passes and then moves. He doesn't just watch his pass, he doesn't just admire it. He'll give and he'll want to go again. See if he can get some 1-2s, get those triangles going, which is something that Ange also loves. And he plays the easy ball, which, you know, is underrated in terms of the importance of that in modern football. But if there's nothing on in terms of a paradise ball, he will play the easy 5 to 10 yard ball and get it back. And Cardoso sniffs out danger. He sees where the ball is going. He sees where passes are going from the opposition and quite often gets a foot in, breaking up the play. Got to think about some kind of negatives though. He is a good player, but he's by no means the quickest. I think ideally in that 6 role, you'd have someone like that who can do all of those things, but also has a little turn of pace too. I can't say that about Cardoso. Not the quickest, but I think it's a deal that will happen, be that January or next season. And let's just keep watching Cardoso as he plays for Real Betis this season. And let me know in the comments what you like about him or whether you think he's maybe not suited for Ange's Spurs going forward. The other bit of transfer news today. According to sources, despite us having signed Wilson-Odoi for big money in the summer, Spurs are still interested in Nottingham Forest Callum Hudson-Odoi. The ex-Chelsea player, of course, ripping up trees at Forest, doing really well, coming in off that left flank. And lots of very similar attributes to Son Heung-min. And let's face it, even though we are going to trigger that 1-year extra clause on Son Heung-min's contract, which will take him past this summer to the next summer, we are now looking for the future, aren't we? We are looking as to the replacement for Son Heung-min now that he's 32 years old. That's not to suggest that I think Sonny is on his way out by any means. He's always... football has always been the most important thing to him. He's kept his body very healthy. He's never had any vices. So I think he could easily go on to play till he's 35, Sonny. But I think we will have to really think about how many games he plays, especially with the amount of travelling he does to South Korea. So it makes sense to me why Callum Hudson-Odoi, having moved on from Chelsea for a pretty low fee, even though for years some of the German clubs wanted to pay big money for him, Dortmund and Bayern Munich particularly, but he ran his contract down and in the end went to Forest for a pretty small fee. And he's one of the main men at Forest now, and that's really working for him. And I like the thought of him. When I watch him, he's really impressive. Draws men on, takes players on down the line, cuts inside, and has a beautiful finish into the far left-hand corner with his right foot. In fact, the former chief scout at Manchester United, Mick Brown, who's still got a lot of contacts with the game, said the following about Callum Hudson-Odoi. Tottenham were interested in him during the summer, and I'm told that interest hasn't faded, and they would still like to sign another winger. Of course, when a side like Forest, with all due respect, are performing above their usual level, they're currently in like third place, aren't they? Third or fourth place. The high-flying players start to attract interest. I wouldn't expect a deal to happen in January. He'll need to show this type of form over the course of the whole season, but there's definite interest. I'm told a number of clubs, including Tottenham, have been keeping an eye on him and tracking his development. What do you guys think about Callum Hudson-Odoi? Is he a player you'd like to see in the lily white shirt at Tottenham Hotspur? The only worry I'd have about him is obviously he's been a player at Chelsea where he's not the main man, where he's had to try and break through, and he hasn't quite managed that. But he goes to Nottingham Forest, and suddenly the responsibility is on him. The fans love him. He's one of the best players at the club, and it really works for him. And this is such a common thing at the top level of football, is where the players are in the hierarchy of a club, where they are in the pecking order, and where they are amongst the fans really affects their ability to reach their potential. And if Hudson-Odoi was going to come to Spurs, I would need to know that he, in terms of his attitude, was going to be like, not only am I going to do it when I'm picked for the first team, but also there's going to be a squad situation, a rotation situation, and I'm going to need to be patient. I'm going to need to not throw my toys out of the pram if I'm not playing every week, and I'm not going to need to take my chance. If I take my chance, when I get the chance to play in the first team, then of course he'll play every game, but I don't know, it's just that kind of little thing about the attitude, the difference between being the most important player or one of the most important players at a club, or being one of many in a team and squad situation like Big Ange really has at Spurs. So let me know what you think. Is he a good fit for Spurs? Would he fit in well? Now, onto those injury news, bits of injury news that I mentioned. QT Romero, I'd say this is actually good news, because when he went off with that toe injury against, who was it? In the last game, of course, against Aston Villa. Sorry, I was wondering, was it against Man City or Villa? No, it was against Aston Villa, because he made that really terrible foul. He actually injured himself, didn't he, QT Romero? But when he took his shoe, his boot and his sock off, it looked like he had a toe injury. I really feared it might be a broken metatarsal, which would keep him out for maybe 2 to 3 months. But apparently it's just a light injury to the ligaments of his toe. There's no bone injury, no fracture or crack or break. It's milder than it could have been, and he's going to be out for about a week or 10 days. Now, I don't know, actually. Do Argentina have a game in this international break? I'm hoping that even if they do, Romero would not be risked for that, and he can just rest over this international break after the Ipswich game and be back in time for the next game that Spurs have, which, of course, is at the Etihad, Man City away. Let's talk a little bit more about Christian Romero. Lots of discussion this season as to whether he's had a bad season. I think there have been some occasions where he's lost concentration and been responsible for a few goals, sure. But I wouldn't say he's had a bad season, especially when you think about how excellent he is and has been on the ball, how key he is in terms of starting all of our forward-thinking play, getting the ball off Vicario, being an option for Van de Ven, and then playing those between-the-lines passes. He's absolutely second to none when it comes to that. So once he kind of raises his concentration, and I'd say this little rest because of this injury might be really good for Romero, because he's played a lot of football in the last year, 18 months, 2 years. Give him a little rest, get him fully fit and healthy again, and then maybe those lapses of concentration will drop out of his game as we push towards Christmas, the new year, and when it really starts to happen. And let's get him back fit, certainly, for that Carabao Cup quarter-final game against Manchester United, which I think is around the middle of December. I also want to discuss how this gives a real opportunity to Radu Dragusin and, of course, Ben Davies. They'll undoubtedly start, I think, tomorrow night against Galatasaray. I actually like the thought that Dragusin's going to get a big opportunity now in the next couple of games at least to play on that right-hand side of the two centre-backs. For me, that's where he's most comfortable. He's not by any means Romero on the ball, but he's not as bad as some people say, and I think it's kind of exacerbated by when he's expected to play on the left side of the two centre-halves. So with Ben Davies' natural balance on the left, I think that means Dragusin will definitely play on the right, and that will allow him to open up his body and play the balls into whoever's playing right back, be that Pedro Porro or Archie Gray, and get the ball back in comfortable areas and play it then into Basuma or Bentancur and back. And I've seen him play a few more brave balls in the last couple of games between the lines, Radu Dragusin. So I think as he gets more experience, as he gets older, and as he grows into this team and this squad, I think his passing will improve. And then in terms of Ben Davies, just wanted to ask you guys what you think. Would you sign another centre-half in January, a fourth choice centre-back? Would you go for that? Obviously, it looks at the moment like Spurs are not going to, because they're really keen not to block the pathway of Vuskovic, who's currently out on loan at Westerlo with Alfie Devine. They're actually both getting rave reports over there. They've won their last two games after having a bad run, but Vuskovic has been playing beautifully and scoring goals. So for me, I think Ben Davies is easily good enough to play the fourth choice centre-half role for the rest of this season, and then we wait for the young kid Vuskovic, I think is only 17, 18 now, to come in and learn his trade at Spurs. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Meanwhile, Richarlison has done an Instagram post today about his injury. He says it's a difficult moment again. I was very happy working hard and playing, but now I'm injured again. It's difficult to say what I'm feeling in this moment. Just pray for me. I hope God will protect me. He's expected to be out for 4 weeks with this hamstring injury now. Listen, I spoke yesterday about how I felt like Big Ange Postecoglou probably wouldn't have much more patience with Richarlison's ability to get on the pitch. Similar to Gio Lo Celso, great players can offer a lot, but do not get on the pitch enough for Big Ange, and therefore I thought he'd be quite keen to sell him at the first opportunity. Was I being unfair with him? Is Richarlison actually a great squad player for Spurs and he's just been unlucky with injuries? Let me know what you think in the comments. Love to chat about it. Let's face it, when he was fit for a good period last season in the middle, he scored those kind of 10 goals in 12 games or 11 in 13 or something like that. So maybe I'm being unfair on him and we deserve to give him more time. But he has had a lot of injuries while he's been at Spurs. Finally today, Tottenham defender Ben Davies is one of just 13 people to be named on the new Players Board, which is an official group as part of the Professional Footballers Association, the PFA. Only 10 current players have been elected, so well done Ben Davies, clearly very highly thought of amongst his peers. It's been confirmed that the group will act as the voice of the changing room on behalf of the Football League and the Premier League. The board will be comprised of 3 former players and 10 who still play. Ben sits alongside the likes of Connor Cody, amongst many others on the board. I mean, for me, that is a fitting appointment. Ben Davies, clearly one of the most intelligent, smart, and kind people, really, in professional football, certainly at Spurs. And for him to have him as the voice of other players, I think can only help them. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Do press the like on this video. Want to get it seen by as many Spurs fans as possible. Do subscribe to my channel. In the bottom right-hand corner there, just press that subscribe button for daily Tottenham and transfer content. And you can become a member. Only £1 a month. All the details of how in the description box below. And it really supports me and helps me make this content for you. Cheers, guys. And we'll have a little match preview of the Galatasaray game for you tomorrow morning. Let's get a surprise win there with our kids playing. Come on, you Spurs.